Hi guys, this is Hero. How's everyone doing today? So today I'm talking about the sun's transit in the sign of Leo. Okay, this is always usually a pretty good time. Okay, this is from August 15th to September 15th. Usually here in the United States, this is like when school starts. Anywhere else, usually like in the Northern Hemisphere, I think school's starting around this time. Okay, summer's ending, fall's kind of about to start. Right, it's overall good vibes. Right. Now, why is this, right? Well, if you want to just isolate the astrological variable, you could chalk it up to the fact that the sun is in the sign of Leo, right? Your sun is your identity, your illusionary material sense of self, okay? We get very attached to this sense of self because this is what we have to deal with for our whole human birth here, but it's not really who you are, but it's kind of who you think you are right now, right? At least while we're here, and we're here for a decent amount of time. So when this sense of self goes into the sign of Leo, which is all about what? Self-fulfillment, and it's very self-centered, right? So when this happens, your identity could feel, your sense of self could feel very pleased, very nurtured, almost, you can say, right? That it's getting what it wants, it's doing the things that it kind of wants to do. Now, really quick disclaimer, right? This video is not like a prediction video, right? And any transit video that you ever see by me or anybody else should not be treated as a prediction video, right? Most of the time, what will happen in your life is not dependent on any transit, right? It is probably going to happen from a dasha of some sort, right? The dashas will determine your outcome, right? These transits are kind of going in the background. Okay, you'll feel them in the background, but what actually happens, whether you end up with this person or not, whether you get this job or not, that is probably going to be from your dashas, right? But your transit does affect, like I said, your energetic background, right? It's not the pure background. That's like your natal chart, right? But I've kind of talked about this in other videos, and I can make a separate video on this later, just to explain this. But now, moving forward. So your sun in Leo, right? So your sense of self, or your illusionary sense of self, is in the sign of fulfillment, right? So this is a great way to find out what your sense of self really likes and wants, right? Now, there's a couple of ways you can approach this, right? You can say, hey, this is what I want. And, there's nothing wrong with wanting things, right? There's nothing wrong with, wanting money or superficial things, right? That's part of the reason why we came here. But you could also use this to see, okay, this is what I want. So let me be very cognizant and, monitor this at like a mental level, I guess you can say, so that we can kind of keep tabs on this going forward, right? So that we don't get overly attached, right? There's no real right or wrong here, right? The sun's kind of in its own sign. You can kind of, I'm not going to say do whatever, but you can kind of go down the more conventionally spiritual route, or you can go down the more conventionally material route, right? But like I said, there's not really right or wrong, right? You have both purposes here to accomplish. And like I said, this is just a transit video, right? The whole purpose of this is just to explain that you can feel a little bit more, you'll notice or be a little bit more aware about what your ego really wants to happen, right? What your identity really wants to happen, right? We all think we're like this unique identity, which we kind of are, right? But in that we need this certain thing to, complete our like little story here or whatever, right? So whatever story you want to unfold kind of to an extent, that can be more shown to light here, right? Now, there are a couple other variables to look at here, right? There's two. There's one obvious and one not obvious. Most obvious one is that Saturn is across Leo in Aquarius, also in its own sign, but it's retrograde, all right? And then the other factor to consider here, which is not as obvious, Sun goes through two main nakshatras in Leo, right? There's two nakshatras that majorly comprise Leo, right? And they are ruled by Ketu and Virgo. Now, Ketu and Venus, right? Now, Ketu and Venus are both in the sign of Virgo, right? So in the background of this transit, right, there's a lot of backgrounds here, which is why you always have to, like, anything someone says to you about astrology or anything like that, you need to take it kind of with a grain of salt, but sometimes depending on who you're getting your information from. But more importantly, you need to see what layers, additional layers you need to add on top of the analysis, right? Now, so you have two other factors to consider here, or that I will consider in this video before I conclude this video. One is that there's Saturn in retrograde in Aquarius, right? Now, the Sun and Saturn aspect each other, right? So what does this mean, right? How does the Saturn here on the other side, but retrograde in its own main sign, affect the Sun here, okay? So so Saturn's all about what? Like discipline, service, things like that. Now it's in Aquarius, right? Which is good. However, it's retrograde. So what this could mean right now, right, that these two are aspecting each other. So when Saturn's retrograde, it's kind of, when any planet is retrograde, it's kind of like going against the grain of where it's at. It's still doing where it's sitting, but it's trying to like achieve the opposite almost, right? Now, so Saturn, like in Aquarius, right? I mean, this is not like, when it comes to retrograde planets, there's no like easy way to explain this, but like here, like with all this combination, Saturn in Aquarius, right? It basically means, you're kind of doing things for others and things like that, right? Or you're directly doing things, but that kind of help other people or something, right? If it's retrograde, it's kind of almost, not exactly, but almost like you're kind of wanting some hidden fulfillment when like you provide some type of benefit towards someone else, right? It's like just at an extremely, extremely high level. Let's just say you create some new policy in your company that you work at as, chief or head of whatever. And it provides benefit to a lot of people, right? There's some superficial benefit, but now you're hoping that benefit basically makes people like you more, right? Something like that, right? So that's kind of like how that Saturn could affect this Sun here, right? Now the Sun here, it's in its own sign of fulfillment. So basically what this means is you could kind of, okay, so I kind of explained both independently. Now you kind of have to combine them together. So the Sun, right, it's trying to just do the things that it wants for its own identity, right? And what does an ego overall want, right? It wants validation, attention, stimulating feelings and emotions, all this kind of stuff, right? So it's kind of going to try to do stuff, right? Now you have Saturn here kind of influencing it. Basically what it's going to say is, hey, we can get more of that and I want to give you more of that if you kind of just play along with my game here, right? Kind of make it look a little bit like whatever we're doing is like helping others and things like that, right? Now, it's not fully like that, right? But to an extent, the main point that you want to get across here is that anything you do, you also want to be cognizant, besides the stuff that I said in the beginning of this video, you also want to be cognizant about any possible hidden motive here, especially if it's something that's going to like superficially help others or assist others, right? You're like, let's just say you're taking care of someone's kid or something like that, right? And then you try to convince yourself, oh, it's for this person, or it's even for me, but it's just like, hey, like, am I doing this to like get this person to like me? Stuff like that, right? You want to be extra cognizant about hidden motives also, or hidden ulterior gains that you're trying to achieve for yourself, okay? Now that's the Saturn piece. Now the other one that I was going to say was thinking about Virgo in the background, right? So we know that Venus and Ketu is in Virgo. Now Ketu is not exactly the best planet, and from a material sense, and Venus is also in its lovely debilitated sign of Virgo. Okay, so basically what this means is, like I said, this is just a huge generality, right? But you could feel like, so you have to kind of combine it, right? So I'm going to add just the direct layer here on top of the whole story going on. So you have Virgo, right? And this is not vastly positive energy because, and it's kind of also in the hidden background, right? Because Venus gets debilitated here, and the Ketu is already not the best material planet as we speak. So basically, this could make it feel like the sun is like a little bit repressed, like slightly in the background. So it could use like Saturn's juices or Saturn's like energy to basically say the sun is, pretend you're the sun, right? That's the whole point of the transit, right? So pretend you're the sun. It's like, hey, I'm feeling a little bit repressed. So rather than just doing whatever we want to do, because we feel repressed anyways, and there's this very strong Saturn aspect, right? You have to remember that it is very, very strong. It's in its own sign and directly across, right? It's like, hey, let's just kind of do the stuff Saturn wants us to do. And especially because Ketu will kind of tie in here with that, its own little karmic mix. And also Venus, like I said, it's going to try to get its own little benefit out of this also. So in order to make kind of everyone happy, and like I said, this is just one generalization, okay? In order to kind of make everyone, you have to look at like everything and how everything ties into everything. But this is just like, let's just say from the perspective of the sun for this 1 month transit. Let's listen kind of to how Saturn is guiding us to achieve our own goal, right? Because Saturn's retrograde, so it still wants what the sun wants, kind of. Let's listen to Saturn more, because we're already like a little bit suppressed and repressed because of the whole Virgo energies, and Saturn already has like a little bit of that earthy element to it too. So let's just listen to it, and we'll probably get more benefit out of the whole situation anyways. Okay, that's kind of at a nutshell how this is tying together. But just independently, the Virgo portion, it could make you feel like a little bit like from the sun's perspective, a little bit like you're not fully able to like achieve your goals, right? It's all an illusion, right? The sun's always going to want more, but it could add a little bit to that effect, like, oh, I don't have everything I want. Okay. But I think that's it for this video. I think we had discussed enough. We're already over 12 minutes. So, and I discussed the major pieces of this. So if you have any questions or comments, as usual, feel free to let me know. Until next time, talk to you guys later. Thank you all very, very much for watching.